Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and tonight I'm going to actually be starting not a new series, but the newest iteration of my Commander deck techs. So, as you may know, I haven't been doing as many deck techs because I've kind of stopped making like hordes of new decks for my own personal collection ever since I moved to kind of building and curating my new cube. So, instead, I'm going to be starting this series of deck techs, which, in my cube, you have to draft your commanders. And there can be a situation where you get to the end of the draft, and you actually haven't drafted commanders, so then you get to go into the Commanders of Shame, which are really bad commanders, and honestly, you really should not be building decks around them. So this is going to be my new series that's called Bottom of the Barrel, where I design decks around each of the Commanders of Shame. So not all of these are equally bad. I think I'm actually starting out with actually probably one of the more useful ones, as in it actually has uses and isn't like a vanilla undercosted legend or overcosted legendary creature. But yeah. So today we are starting it off with Solkanar, the Swamp King. A few things that I want to say before I jump into the deck tech and talk about Mr. Swamp King himself. And it's just a few things I kept in mind when building this deck. One was budget. I'm aiming in paper for these to be around like $50. So nothing too expensive. I might make an exception if there's like a card you need to make the commander work. But otherwise, kind of staying in like the budget range. If you want to check out the a list of like either the deck list itself or a list of all the Commanders of Shame and to tell me which ones you want to do in the future, I'll put links in the description below. By all means, the Commanders of Shame currently are not all of the terrible commanders that I'll eventually have in the Commanders of Shame, but yeah. So, and also the second thing I kept in mind building this deck was I want it to definitely be around the commander himself. I don't want, because it's like Solkanar, I could just build a generic Grixis commander deck, which doesn't really care about Solkanar. But I really want to tie into like the flavor and whatever mechanics they have. Some of them we will have to key into the flavor because they don't have mechanics. I'm looking at you, Legends commanders. But yeah. So it's like I could end up just being like a very generic deck, but I don't want to do that. I want to actually make this. So without further ado, here's my deck tap for my deck. Long live the Swamp King. So, if we start off, we have Solkanar, the Swamp King, who is 2 blue, black, red, so Grixis. So 5 mana for a 5/5 with Swamp Walk, which is relevant evasion. It's a 5/5, which is not terrible. And Swamp Walk isn't the worst ability to have, I guess. Black is a very commonly played card in color in Commander, and especially if like you drop Urborgs or anything. Urborg is in fact one of the cards I would suggest to upgrade this one, because then all of a sudden your commander's unblockable, which really helps with what this deck is trying to do. And he has, whenever any player plays a black spell, you gain them 1 life. So he has kind of a life gain aspect going on, as well as Swamp Walk. But like this is a kind of a 2-part deck where I'm having kind of 2 main things. One thing I should also say is that I'm building this deck's pretty casual. It's hard to have them fun, like thematic for the commanders, and also have them competitive, because it's like I could just make it, if I want to make this competitive, like super, and that way, I would just make a generic Grixis like control deck, not Long Live the Swamp King. For the first part of this, he's the Swamp King. You gotta become king. So we're playing Grixis Monarch. So we're actually running every single card that helps us become the Monarch. If you don't know, the Monarch is a mechanic from Conspiracy 2, which, as soon as a card says someone becomes the Monarch, the monarchy is in the game for the rest of the game. And what the Monarch means is at the beginning of your end step, you draw an extra card, and if anyone does combat damage to you, they become the Monarch. It has to be combat damage, and you can so it passes from player to player. It gets things swinging into the red zone. But that kind of the idea of this deck is that I want to become the Monarch, but I also want to punish people who want to take it from me. I don't, by smacking of Sulkanar and things like that, but we'll get into that later. But we have all of the ways to become the Monarch in these colors. Some of them are not good, but the monarchy is kind of very important to the theme of this deck, because I am the Swamp King. So first we got Custody Lich, which is a 5-mana 2/4 that you become the Monarch. And this is one that benefits from the Monarch being stolen from you and then coming back, because you can make players sacrifice the creatures whenever you become the Monarch. So it's one of those things where it's like, don't steal it from me, or when I steal it back, I can just start making you sack your stuff. So that's a bit more built-in dissuasion. Skyline Despot. This one is one that wants you to stay the Monarch, and that it's a 7-mana 5/5 flyer that, beginning of your upkeep, if I'm the Monarch, you get a 5/5 dragon with flying. So, very good reason to stay the Monarch. Keeper of the Keys, which is a 5-mana 4/4, which, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the Monarch, your creatures are unblockable, which is not great. I mean, normally it's most important to have your creatures unblockable when you are not the Monarch to get it back, but it's better than the other Monarch creatures we're running. Marchesa's Decree, which is, it's an enchantment unlike all the others, which are creatures, and when there's battlefield, you become the Monarch, fun fact. And whenever a creature attacks you, that creature's controller loses a life, so it kind of also punishes people from swinging at you. But you also don't have to be a Monarch for that, so it displays it to people, and it kind of shuts down go wide and token strategies and things like that, and provides a little bit of protection, because this deck isn't super creature heavy. We have Thor and the Black Rose, which is a 4-mana 1/3 that becomes the Monarch, but it also has Death Touch, which in casual games, which are very much more determined by combat, just having a Death Toucher is actually a pretty good political tool, just because people don't want to attack into it. It also gets back to monarchy pretty easily if they don't have creatures they want to throw away to block this, and yeah, it's not great. We're definitely getting into the bad Monarch creatures, but what do you do? Canal Courier, which is a 6-mana 3/5 that you become the Monarch when there's battlefield. Whenever it and another creature attack different players, it cannot be blocked this combat. So essentially, you swing with this guy. You can throw away another creature or something, and it'll get in, and you can steal the monarchy with him and things like that. But he's definitely getting to the very much not good range. And Crown Hunter Hireling, which is a 5-mana 4/4 that you become the Monarch, and it can't attack unless you're attacking the Monarch. This is definitely here just to enable the monarchy. It's not great. So the next thing we want to do is we want to dissuade people from attacking us, and we want to point them at other people. The first one we have is the Cycle of Curses from Commander 2017. First up we got Curse of Disturbance. Each of these, there's some other curses that encourage attacking, but I like these the best because it also gives you a little bit of a benefit. So it kind of lets you grind out incremental advantage over time. And that's really the theme of this deck, is that it wants to kind of out-attrition, out-value over time your opponent's stuff and kind of get you a little bit of advantage. And it's not explosive, it doesn't win on the spot, it just wears your opponents thin. You're hopefully getting a lot of card draw from being the Monarch and things like that, and these curses help that. This one just says, whenever someone attacks that player, both that player that attacked him and you get a zombie. So it gives that there. You have Curse of Opulence, which is the same thing but with gold, which you can sacrifice for mana. And Verbosity, which is the same thing but drawing cards. So you kind of want to like direct your opponent at everyone else that isn't you and kind of dissuade people from maybe taking the monarchy. It's like, you could take the monarchy from me and draw an extra card, or I put Curse of Verbosity on this our mutual opponent. You could attack them, you still draw a card, and I won't have to attack you with my Swamp King next turn, so that's cool. Then we have the Vow Cycle. These actually kind of function as pseudo removal in a lot of ways. They are auras that give pretty good stats, but makes them unable to attack you. They can still block your creatures, but I hope we're getting back the monarchy with mostly evasive threats. So these don't matter. These are pretty much removal for us, while still letting our opponents like beat up on each other, which is kind of like that slow incremental grind to win. First we have Vow of Flight, which gives +2/+2 and has flying. We have Vow of Lightning, which gives +2/+2 and first strike. And Vow of Malice, which gives +2/+2 and intimidate. So they all kind of buff up your like threatening creatures on your opponent's side, while they can hang around the board while you're perfectly safe behind your auras that let them, I don't know, protect you and whatnot. Okay, the next part of the theme is we are the Swamp King. And also Solkanar has Swamp Walk. So let's turn our opponent's lands into swamps. Because, you know what, you might be playing someone who isn't playing black, and sometimes you gotta just, like, shove Solkanar through. Anyway, you're the Swamp King, and if they suddenly have swamps, hey, guess what, you're their king. So you have Contaminated Ground, which is an aura which enchants a land, and it turns into a swamp. And whenever it becomes tapped, its controller loses 2 life. So this can be done to, like, I don't know, it's that incremental value, as well as just kind of pushing it through. Most of these are just essentially auras that you put on your opponents that essentially says Solkanar is unblockable. So you have Contaminated Ground. We have Convincing Mirage, which is, it just changes into any basic land type, which I guess you could use for fixing on your own lanes if you needed to, but yeah. You can also use it to shut off some of your opponent's mana, just some of these, just because if you want to overwrite the type, because it isn't in addition to its other types. Evil Presence, all the way back to Alpha for this card, which is just a 1-mana enchant land, which just turns it into a swamp. Phantasmal Terrain, which it turns into anything, but mostly you're going to be saying swamp. And Tainted Well, which this one cycles itself, which is cool, but yeah, it turns it into a swamp, so that's cool. I don't know what you expected. Next, it'll come a time when we don't actually win, and we're not the king anymore, and we got to become the king. And these are cards built to just get back that monarchy just very easily. First we got Dimir Infiltrator, who's a 2-mana 1/3 that's unblockable. He also has Transmute to get other 2-drops, but yeah, it's mostly just an easy unblockable creature. Mistcloak Herald is just a 1-drop that can't be blocked. Slitherblade, same thing. Triton Shorestalker, also same thing. Just cheap creatures that get on the battlefield and push through and make them unblockable. Gudal Lurker, same thing. Stormfleet Sprinter. This one's nice because it's a little bit more expensive than the others, but the fact that it also has haste allows you to just grab that monarchy out of nowhere. And as with others, Swiftfoot Boots, because, I mean, just getting that monarchy quickly is important, and late game you probably won't have like those 1/1s ready to go. As well as also just protecting your commander, because, I mean, Solkanar's not great, but he still is, like, not, like, an innocent little flower. He's still a 5/5 that is dealing commander damage, which very likely will become unblockable. So you probably want to protect him. Another upgrade that I didn't include just for budget reasons is that Lane Greaves obviously is an upgrade over this, but is not included. Whispered Silk Cloak, it just gives a straight unblockable and a shroud, just has some redundancy built in there. And this isn't really reflecting the theme of this, but I put Silent Blade Oni in there because it actually just fits really well. Because we have all this unblockable creatures, which actually makes some of the ninjutsu creatures very good. And obviously you can run more ninjas if you want to, but this was more of a side theme and I used one of the more impactful ones. Which, this one just whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to cast a card from their hand. So, I don't know, flavor-wise, I kind of like this. I don't have too many, play with your opponent's deck type things. It was something I, considered for, the secondary theme of this deck. Kind of yes, pay tithe and homage to me, your Swamp King. But, this is all that kind of is left from that part of it. And the next part is life gain. Solkanar gains life, and whenever you cast a black spell. And actually, the majority of the cards in this deck are black, so it does give you that benefit there of you're triggering a lot. But there is a problem where Grixis is not a good life gain suite. Black has a lot of good life gain enablers. It has lots of good cards to gain you life and things like that. But most of the life gain payoffs require white. So that's why we didn't go all in on a Grixis life gain deck, because there just isn't enough payoffs to really make it work. The life gain here, we do have some life gain payoffs that are in our colors, but this is mostly to just add to this attrition and slowly outvaluing your opponent, your opponents over time. Obviously this is very good with this deck won't be great if your group is very much into combo and very explosive turns and stuff. But so it's definitely meant for more slow-paced, casual groups, definitely. So next, well, first up for that life gain stuff, we have Fountain of Renewal, which is the game for upkeep you gain a life. And you can sack it later for a card if you want to, but just mostly just getting that slow value of life over time. Garrulous Sycophant, which is a 3 and a 1/4, but also this one actually is the perfect cross between the two things, which is at the beginning of your end step, if you're the Monarch, you drain each opponent for 1 life. So, yeah, you get to it's perfect crossover of the two things. Gifted Aetherborn, like I said, in the meta that this deck is kind of built around, combat is very important, and these sort of things are just very good. This is it both gets you life for getting your life gain triggers, as well as just being a very nice political piece for protecting yourself. You don't want to attack into a Gifted Aetherborn, because it's just this is just a good death touch creature, which also giving yourself your life gain. Same thing with Vampire Nighthawk, because Vampire Nighthawk, it's the same thing as Gifted Aetherborn, but with wings. Well, not wings, but can fly somehow, I guess. Gary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Like I said, it's a very black-centric deck. And we're not doing anything crazy with blinking or reanimating Gary a lot. But Gary, honestly, kind of be just a very poor man's exsanguinate in this deck. Just real solid creature. Train all your opponents for your devotion to black. Palace Siege. I mean, it is a life gain spell, and depending on how late in the game it is. Early on, I would recommend definitely you might want to choose dragons just to get that slow value over time. Late into the game, if you need to be recycling your unblockable creatures and things like that, you might choose cons to get the creatures back to your hand and get back to monarchy and do whatever you need. But both modes are actually very useful for this deck. Retreat to Hagra. This one drains your opponents on landfall, so just another way to get that incremental advantage over time. Sang Romancer. Whenever an opponent discards a card, which your deck isn't doing, but they might do it for other reasons, you gain 3 life. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may also gain 3 life. So, this one's actually a very, it's not quite like a blood artist, because it doesn't drain your opponents, but it does give you a lot of life. I also won a commander game with this at GP Portland with some of the cosplay people, so yeah. I was playing Abzan Life Gain, and in the same turn I played Sangromancer, and I then also fumigated the same round to just gain so much life. The board was so full, and I gained something like 76 life that turn off of that fumigate. It was beautiful. And then I Aetherflux Reservoir and killed everyone. Triskaidekaphobia, which is a 4-mana enchantment, which causes at the your upkeep any player who has 13 life to lose. But you can also use it to drain everyone for 1 life, or more likely gain everyone from one. Everyone gains 1 life. Sure, everyone gains 1 life, but you're getting the most value from gaining a life, so there's that. Also, it's just not every day you see Triskaidekaphobia wins in Commander, and there's only one way to see that, and that's to have Triskaidekaphobia in your deck, so yeah, Triskaidekaphobia. And now for our payoffs. Like I said, it's really hard to do a good life gain deck without white, but we have a few payoffs. We're not all in on the life gain. It's mostly just to help that, the attrition battle that this deck's trying to push. But here's our actual life gain payoffs. Of course, we have Aetherflux Reservoir, which is both an enabler and a payoff. Essentially, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. And you may pay a full 50 life if you manage to get up to that high, and deal 50 damage to target creature or player. This deck is unlikely to be able to do the big laser beam, but it's not impossible for you to get the just the extra life itself isn't too bad. Especially since a lot of your stuff is actually quite cheap, like the cheap unblockable creatures, the cheap enchantments turn things into swamp. You can have some pretty good turns where you gain a lot of life. Defiant Bloodlord, which is a 7-mana 4/5 flying, and whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So, that's another deck like Exquisite Blood. I don't have in this deck because that's like $50 or something. Okay, probably not. It's either like 20 or 50. I don't remember which it is. But it's definitely beyond the budget of this deck. But this is an Exquisite Blood versus a Sangling Bond. This is a Sangling Bond. But I'm not running Exquisite Blood, and that's one of the next things that's like, this would be very good for this deck, but is not within its budget. Epicure of Blood. I mean, this is another thing. I use this in my Abzan Life Gain deck too, where a lot of our life gain is in small little packets and not just all at once. And Epicure does a good job of these small little packets. He does turn into every single black spell you cast loses 1 life due to Solkadar, and all these other things that can add up over time. It's also in each opponent, which is nice. Sanguine Bond, which is the same thing as the Defiant Bloodlord, but on an enchantment. Yeah, it's a Sanguine Bond. Well of Lost Dreams, which is a 4-mana artifact that whenever you gain life, you may pay X, and where X is the amount of life you gained. And if you draw X cards. So it's a really good card draw engine if you need to, late game. So, alright. And now we're getting into the things that just kind of makes the deck tick. So first we got removal. We got Chaos Warp because, we're Grixis. We gotta deal with enchantments somehow. Crux of Fate. This is just some of the cheaper black wipes. Extinguish All Hope, same thing. Insidious Will. It's one of the more powerful counterspells, and it's also pretty cheap for Commander for this budget kind of thing. Letting you essentially do whatever you want to a spell. King Marar, the Gold Cursed. We have this is a few things. One, it's removal. B, it's also a king, so it kind of fits this thematic aspect. Also, you have a few things to make your guys unblockable and things like that. And the inspired mechanics, with helping King Macar untap like more easily and things like that. So also acts as removal, but it's mostly here in flavor reasons. Meteor Golem, just as a general kill anything you want in Grixis. Nihil Spellbomb, because having a little bit of graveyard hate is always nice and people tend to forget about it. Price of Fame, just a solid like recent cards. That's another thing I want to do for these like kind of like any sort of budget deck I do. I like to include recent cards because I don't know. I know there's a lot of people who don't play Magic who watch my channel or are really new to Magic that watch my channel, and I like to include in Spotlight cards that are like good in Commander that are more recent cards that they might more reasonably have lying around. And Price of Fame is just a solid black removal spell for Commander, definitely. Royal Assassin. Granted, this is like kind of the idea of like, oh, it kills royals. I like to think in this deck it's an assassin working for royals. Yes, that's definitely what it is. But also just a really good kill piece if you need it. Terminate, just a good removal spell. And then finally we're into our ramp, which is kind of like the essentials. We got Charcoal Diamond, Commander's Sphere, Cryptolith Fragment, Dimir Signet, Izzet Signet, Rakdos Signet, Pristine Talisman, helps with that life gain, and Soul Ring, because it's a Commander deck. And yeah. And Wayfarer's Bubble. This one I like, it's a little bit slower than some of the other ramp sources, but I do like that it does get you basic lands, which is, their artifact removal is a thing, and artifact wipes are a thing, and general permanent wipes are a thing, and not having all of your ramp be artifact base is useful, so I like having a little bit that isn't. And Worn Power Stone, because, I mean, yeah, you need that ramp, you're not in green. And now we're going to move into lands. First up, we actually have Throne of the High City, which is it's a colorless land, but you can pay 4 mana to sack it to become the Monarch, which I really like. This card is also very cheap right now. I'd recommend picking up some because I love the Monarch mechanic in Commander, and this is currently under $1, which is kind of a travesty. But yeah, just be able to become the Monarch whenever unattached to a land. I like it. Just another way to enable the monarchy. Rogue's Passage, just another way to make my stuff unblockable, because that's kind of important for getting back the monarchy. And then just the general color fixing. We got Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, Crumbling Necropolis, Bloodfell Caves, Dismal Backwater, Swiftwater Cliffs, Dimir Aqueduct, Izzet Boilerworks, Rakdos Canarium, Tainted Isle, Tainted Peak, Temple of Deceit, Temple of Epiphany, Temple of Malice, and then Swamps, Islands, and Mountains, and I did not note how many of each. And pretty standard budget land spread for three color deck, and that's the deck. Yeah, I really like how this started out. The next deck I have to do for this, which I had a poll on Twitter to see what it does, and this one tied with Kentaro, the Smiling Cat, who's really bad, but you'll see that later. So yeah, no, like what do you think of this deck? Like, what do you think? How do you like the direction I went with it? And yeah, no, generally, what do you think? Like, are you interested in more of these like fun theme decks around just terrible commanders? Yeah. So I definitely had a lot of fun building this deck. It was definitely a fun challenge and kind of like very much focusing on like the theme of like, you know, I'm the Swamp King. Like, well, let's make this work. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a lot of the other decks for this. Well, other news, I do have a video coming out for like recapping everything at GP Portland, but I'm kind of waiting on some other people to post some pictures so I can actually include more pictures in the video itself. But I will be doing that later. Well, until next time, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful night's sleep and wonderful dreams. And may your story smile upon you.